This episode is a transmission of energy and medicine straight from Kremena Yordanova and her ancestors. Here she talks about doing things like you chose it, letting your life unfold and taking your sweet time, and how she chose her own path in both corporate and yoga despite the pressures to be a full-time yoga teacher. Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Embody Podcast, a show about remembering and embodying your true nature, inner wisdom, embodied healing, and self-love. My name is Candace Wu, and I'm a holistic healing facilitator, intuitive coach, and artist sharing my personal journey of vulnerability, offering meditations and guided healing support, and having co-creative conversations with healers and wellness practitioners from all over the world. Before we jump into the episode today, I'd like to invite you to a very special workshop that's happening on June 15th, 2019 in Rochester Hills, Michigan. And the workshop is called Being in Beauty. And it's a systemic and family constellation workshop along with somatic experiencing and self-forgiveness. And in this workshop, we'll connect with what is beauty to you. Is it a deep sense of freedom and peace? Is it loving yourself and feeling like you are exactly who you are? Is it feeling intimacy and openness with loved ones or abundance and money in your life, in your career? Is it a sense of belonging or living the life you love? Grace, flow, and harmony? Or feeling healthy and good in your own skin? Whatever your sense of beauty is, in this workshop we'll illuminate any hidden, unconscious dynamics that can be a challenge on your journey. What I have found is that when we're tangled up with previous soul or ancestral dynamics, or our personal historical traumas or overwhelming experiences, part of ourselves is still working that out, and our bodies take on this form and become the language of what's happening at a deeper level. We end up with disease, with emotional imbalances, with pain or tension, and those are not the obstacle to ourselves, but the way. The obstacle is the way towards who we are and what our soul wants us to know and learn so that we can give deep honoring and recognition to who we are. And so the process of family or systemic constellations and tuning into what the body's showing us allows us to acknowledge what is and what is underneath all of those physical pains, those challenges with our bosses, or the fighting that we might experience within us or in other relationships. And what unfolds is an organic healing and resolution of what was living itself through you and in your life, and frees you from that so you can be yourself in the ease that you are, in the loving that you are, and the beauty that you desire in your life. So if you want more information about this, you can find it at candacewu.com/bebeauty. And again, that's on Saturday, June 15th in Rochester Hills, Michigan. And I would love for you to join, even if you're from out of town or if you're local. Feel free to connect with me if you'd like to know more or have any questions. I'm really grateful to bring this lovely conversation with Kremena Yordanova here. She lives her passions in many worlds, including yoga, entrepreneurship, and in the corporate world. And I'm inspired by how she looks at the subtleties of patterns in everyday life as ways to know herself and to support her yoga students. I loved in this episode where she talks about her ancestry and how she circled back to her Bulgarian roots and brings her retreats to Bulgaria, bringing the herbs and medicine of Bulgaria to people who are interested in learning about the country and the culture. Kremena fuses the philosophy of yoga with modern day life as the basis of her teachings, and her realistic, grounded, and contemporary approach has made her a sought-after teacher in Amsterdam, with weekly practices in several studios and at the W Hotel Amsterdam. So without further ado, here is Kremena. So it's really a delight to have you here, Kremena. I really don't know all that much about you, and I want to share your lovely work from what I've seen and heard from you. So, would you just begin by sharing with everyone here who you are and what you're doing in the world now?
Um, First of all, thank you so much, Candice, for inviting me to really have a conversation around what is my passion and where I'm currently at. So, my name is Kremena, and I teach yoga classes, workshops, retreats, anything to do with yoga, really. And next to that, I choose to maintain my full time demanding job. What keeps me motivated and alive to be doing this work that I'm doing is the fact that you can do both without feeling guilty that only one passion in life should be the guiding force behind everything you do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What is your full-time work?
I currently we hold a marketing activation senior manager role within Reebok, and
Mhm.
I have a team that I'm leading, and I find that the passion for yoga gives me more opportunities to be connected with them in more authentic way. I don't see my team as people that work for me. We are co-creating things together. We just happen to be working together and
Mhm.
putting good work out there. And I often hear them say, "You do realize we're the most spiritual team," or they making jokes like this just because sometimes I will align calendars with the moon and stuff like that that they find amusing, but they deeply understand that yoga is a big part of who I am. And
Mm.
they never feel like it should be one or the other. We make space for both. But it's a
Yeah.
fun and challenging and interesting job to do.
That sounds fascinating. I love how you've brought your yogic self to the world of the corporate, and I've heard you speak a little bit about that both and
Totally.
concept instead of one or the other, and how you're bringing in your passions, making space for both. That's something that I've had to really learn in my life as well. So, how did this come about for you with yoga and your passion for it and combining these worlds?
So I found yoga quite late in my life, in a sense that I've never been one of those people that will be um, super into spirituality or even any type of sports in any depth. Um, but when I moved to the Netherlands, I fell in love with in the first yoga class, in a sense that knew that this is my tribe. This is something that I kind of felt like I haven't finished business with something I didn't even know it's within me.
Mm,
I come
yeah.
alive when I teach, and it's kind of difficult to explain. You feel like you're belonging, you feel like this is your purpose in life. And in the same time, it didn't feel like it's forceful, although it came quite late. So
Mm.
I moved to the Netherlands more than a decade ago, and I was very detached
From Bulgaria.
from Bulgaria. Indeed,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
originally from Bulgaria, and I love coming back home. But recently, I can now proudly say that I find Amsterdam being my home, which has been a long, long journey. When I moved here back in the days, I really didn't feel like I belong, and yoga was the only thing that kept me grounded and kept me really being myself. While now I figure that I can be myself anywhere I go, and transitioning from what I've learned on the mat into the job I'm right now doing and any other
Mhm.
thing I'll be hopefully doing going forward is something that excites me. You have to be yourself. There is no one else. And finding yoga in the path was inevitable for me. So it seems now.
Mm.
But in the beginning was I would be just doing classes and start teaching, and people will put this pressure on when you're going to be full-time yoga teacher. And they
Yeah.
by default, I don't understand. Have you experienced anything like that? Questions that puzzle you more than they should? Because in my mind, it never occurs that it's a thing and it
Right.
has to happen.
Wait, what do you mean? It's a thing that has to happen?
So, well, people just assume that
Yes.
you would be liking to be doing just one of the things. Like, so when are you branching out? When are you doing? And
Yeah.
I feel the pressure of explaining that it's a constant choice that you can take every day, that you're doing both and you're
Yeah.
capable of doing both.
I do experience that. I think it's and not specifically in that way, but I do experience this sort of questions from the outer world about my life where it doesn't even apply. It's like it's not a question for me. Like for a time I was feeling like I was just not wanting to make any plans in my life. And I was already traveling about 1.5 years, and people were saying, "What's next? Where's the next place? What is your plan for the next year?" And I'm like, geez, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, except for I know I have my clients or something. And it was like, I don't want to make a plan. But yeah, I'm sure I assume things too when I ask questions. But sometimes that sort of like dumbfounded feeling of like, wait, what? That's not what I think about for myself. I can relate to that.
But it's funny how we all project our own realities, which is amazing. But what
Yeah.
you do with that information is totally up to you. And there is always a saying when you go and you ask for guidance, you already know the answer by seeking the person's opinion. Often when students come to me and they ask me questions that they already know what I would tell them, I'm like, just ask the next person because you know my answer and it's too easy. So yeah, it's fascinating. This is something that lately has been on my mind. When students approach me after class and they think we all have all the answers, and the only answer I can give is that they already know. Their deeper healing happens within them, and their answers are within them. And this constant seeking of external validation, it's part of avoiding sometimes the answers that we already know. So it's fascinating how it happens.
Yeah. I have found myself doing that before and at times. And maybe this is similar, but kind of a twist to that. It's like I seek the person that I want that specific answer to reflect what's in me already. And I won't go to this other person that will reflect a
Totally.
different place.
And every now and then someone will surprise you with an answer that you were like, oh, I really did not see this coming.
Right.
And then those are the people you need to cherish the most around you, because you're like, oh, you surprised me with this answer of yours. But it's
Yeah.
fascinating how small ideas and even little conversations can make you change your mind or reconfirm an old belief.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's again up to you which path you want to follow. In my current situation, the question has always been, why would you continue doing both? Do you not see that you can maybe do 100% in one and 100% in another? But it happens for me that it balances me out so much better when I have a demanding job. But then again, I have my deeper work that is my passion, and that is something that moves me deeply, and I get to share it with more people. So I really, lately, everyone, when they ask me, how you doing? My only answer is too good. And their reaction on my answer is what is fascinating. Some people don't believe me, and I feel like I have to explain myself more. And some people are just like taking it as it is and use it in their answers. And they say it,
Mm.
I have to say it with your accent. Too good. And
Too good.
it has a thing going on now. Everyone answers that. And people will say you're hanging out with Kremena too long now if you're answering that way. So it's a good feeling
Oh,
to, yeah,
that's sweet. That was
it's a
sweet.
good feeling.
Yeah. So when you say that your deeper work is your passion and it moves you deeply, what about your deeper work or your inner work or yoga moves you right now?
So recently we're exploring the options of allowing people space and time to do the deeper work. Um, in classes, normally we don't have enough time to equip them or just give them ideas around how self-healing and finding what the patterns are that they're working with. Often we always say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, and in a limited 1 hour class you might see only a glimpse of what's going on in your life and in your mat.
Mm-hmm.
But what excites me most is when we provide a week-long retreats where you're detached from your daily routines and you're invited to explore what is really going on within you. What is it that
Mm-hmm.
desires some attention, or you haven't paid much attention just because you choose to distract yourself? And the retreats are a big bulk of the work I'm doing right now, that I learn a lot about myself, and it's something that we do together with a group or just few of my closest friends, but it's something that allows me to find out more and regain that confidence that this really is what I'm meant to be doing. And the small aha moments when we get together and share it, it's something that I cannot even put into words. You have to be there to know that that oneness exists with a simple chanting of Om or anything that we really do with this feeling of togetherness is very powerful to me, at least.
Absolutely. I find the same thing when I'm doing retreats. There's that shared connection and going inward together
Totally.
that you're speaking of. Yeah, that's beautiful. And that detachment from your daily life to give enough space. That sounds really
Oh,
lovely.
it's so important. When people lack the connection with nature, with themselves, it's very easy to only live in your head. And we all are capable of doing that. And it's okay for a certain period of time. But if you don't rest and if you don't replenish your soul, we really speak of those retreats as sweet escape, and then replenishing our souls and getting some habits that allow us to stop, to pause, to feel instead of only think. And
Mm-hmm.
often we have these jobs that we love and we attach ourselves, but they are demanding, and they're demanding a lot of space in our heads and not so much in our bodies. And a small movements and taking rest is really crucial, I find, in my own life.
Mm-hmm. Same with me. Yeah. And my thought about all of this is that's part of how you support people or encourage people to find the answers within themselves. You know, when
Totally.
you tell your students like the answers within, how else do you guide people to find the answers within?
We use sometimes just breath work. Often we underestimate the power of just knowing that You can observe your own breath and patterns by simply hearing your own breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Often, when students come to my class, the first 5 minutes are everything, in a sense of maybe it's the first time in the day that you can truly feel your own inhales and exhales. And there is this moment where we always find what is it that really is the intention of the practice. I know many studios and teachers say it, but you need to also allow space for people to find it in their own words. We often will find tools like journaling after class where things come really out. And those are only tools that we can ask students to use if they want to. But sometimes it's just a sentence within a class that will resonate with someone. And I'm very appreciative when a student will come and say, this class really clicked with me. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it's one person within the 30 that attended, I feel like my job is done, in a sense that I've channeled something that someone wanted to hear or was ready to hear, because often yoga teachers, we say the same things, but then when the student is ready to hear it, for them is the aha moment. And
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful when you can see that it's been something you were a little part to facilitate. And I like how my students often become good friends of mine, because best conversations and anything else happens after yoga. We often say the coffee after yoga is the best part of it, because we get the chance to discuss things deeper. We get the chance to just really bounce ideas and stay in this community vibe that allows us to see what is really going on.
Mm. Yeah. And everything's open in your body
Mhm.
and flowing. It sounds lovely.
It's a beautiful practice when you're not forcing it on yourself, when you are truly there. I often find myself saying the same things in class, like, do it like you mean it, like be there, even if it's the most uncomfortable posture, without hurting yourself, but feel the unpleasant sensations. And even in those, act like you chose the posture, because it's always a choice to even not do the posture or avoid it, or see how it resonates with you within all the unpleasantness, and then there is always an openness after.
Yeah, it's such a powerful shift and it's subtle
Hmm.
because I can think back to times and sometimes even now where I'm doing something, if whether it's a pose or something else in my life, and I can feel like a victim to it.
Mm,
like I have to do this. But just to think or just to shift into the reality of this is my choice and
absolutely.
feeling into that. And then also feeling the moment where I felt like a victim of it and acknowledging it, like where I didn't
Yeah.
feel the empowerment is really interesting moment too. So that's a lovely reminder.
And it's very funny how, if you haven't learned the lesson, we always speak about those lessons, but it happens again and again and again till you kind of get the lesson. But sometimes it really feels like, come on, universe, I've dealt with this, or at least I thought I was. And
Yeah.
here we come again, not even 7 months in the row, and again the same pattern. And you're like, oh, I'm appreciative of this. But then again, I thought I've learned, and
I
we
know.
haven't. We just
I
haven't.
do know that. Yeah. What can you give us an example of, or at least maybe a recent experience you had of this where you felt like, oh, I thought I learned this lesson? Like, what's something you've been receiving again?
Mhm. For me, it's always been something that undermining the value of what I'm putting out there. It's been a recurring theme of mine for the past few years, and with different sorts of situations or expectations from others, I'll find myself that I play small for no reason really than just being in my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
while I constantly do things that seemingly stretch my limits and all those things. But deep down, when you ask yourself, do you really get out of your comfort zone? Is the question really hits you. I've been wanting, for instance, to write this book, and it's been there with only 5 chapters for the past 5 years, really.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I start speaking about it, there is always something that is like, "Ooh, should I really write it? Should I really post it out there?" And it's this playing small. It's this fear of, is it good enough? Is it not? It's always like holding you back. And that's one example. But as mentioned before, it's, you notice the pattern in other aspects of your life,
Mm-hmm.
undervaluing either the value you have or what you have to say, or either being in meeting or in a private conversation with friends, because often we surround ourselves with the people that will allow us to grow, but we also choose that wisely when we are afraid to do the next step, that we surround ourselves with the people that will keep us in the comfort zone. So this is something I'm dealing with now, that I'm painfully aware of what are the next steps for some of the topics that bother me. And then again, there is this resistance, or isn't it nicer to play small because it's
Mm-hmm.
comfort?
Yeah.
But yeah, lately this has been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot in many ways. I think, though, sometimes for me, it's important to let myself kind of retract and come to that
Mhm.
comfort. And it's funny because it almost comes from the same place of that fear that I need to come back to comfort. One way it shows up for me is to, when I undervalue what I have to say in the simplest way, I can try to make it sound so much bigger. Like I can try to
Mhm.
overachieve even in what I'm saying simply. So like the feeling that it has to be, I don't know, bigger or more interesting than just simply saying what I wanted to say or what is actually
Oh.
there. And so I this like extra efforting causes
Mhm.
me to feel a little bit strange sometimes, and to also be gentle when that contraction happens of, okay, just rest a bit here in the comfort. but
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
yeah, but writing a book as well. It's interesting to hear that from you too. I've been also feeling the same way about a couple of books that I've had ideas for and also written some pieces for. And they've just been sitting there for a long time. And I'm aware of them. I'm very aware of them. And they're coming more alive now. And people are sending me their books,
Mhm.
their personally written
It's,
books. And it's like, okay, I get the message.
but isn't it also, for me, the concept around committing to something, but giving it also space to come whenever you're ready with it? It's a
Mhm.
big deal. I tend to not operate under the pressure of trying to prove something to other people,
Mhm.
which is sometimes what I feel like. I've committed to write a book. 5 years ago, I was very determined. Have the like I have the structure, I have all the things, but then again, I convinced myself during the whole process that I have nothing of importance to say. And it happened gradually that you start believing that, oh, actually this idea is not that great and the other idea neither. But you surround yourself with the people that will be either super pushy to see
Mm-hmm.
you grow and to see you, please make the book, please make the book. I would really enjoy reading it, for instance. Or you're doing the absolutely opposite, that you'll be only surrounded with people that will be, who you, an author, really? And then back to the choice of who do you listen to. And right
Mm-hmm.
now I'm battling. My gut feeling tells me this book is more than ready. Just go ahead and finish it off.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that feeling of it's almost there, it's half baked. Come on, it's like you just
Yeah.
need to press publish. But then again, the little voice that tells you, oh, no one will read it, it's not that important, it's not even written that good, or yeah, the self-sabotaging thoughts that we all
Yeah.
have,
Well, the book,
for me, are winning for now.
right. Well, the process of this book, the process of publishing is
Mhm.
the lesson of self-love, to value yourself and find importance in your own story and words.
It's beautifully said.
Same, I mean, only because I know it myself.
Yeah, yeah, but this is the other good thing about it. Um, when people are going through similar emotions or actions, really, it does take courage and vulnerability to be, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I became who I am right now, with all the bad, the good, the ugly stuff that are happening. There's the fear of, when people read what I have to say, they might not like my classes, or they might not fully comprehend what is it that I'm going through. But those stories, my gut feeling is that even if you write them just for your own healing process and you put it out there, will
Mm-hmm.
be very, very revealing. And yet, that's the scary part, where you're, do I still feel this way about this situation? Because with each and every 6 months, my concept around it, or the stories I'm telling about it, is totally changed. So
Right.
it's never ending. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
fascinating to see.
It just dawned on me that that could be a way to stop oneself from writing something. It's like the
Mhm.
continual editing and the
Oh,
feeling of
yes.
like, this isn't what I think now or feel now,
Yes.
but it was then, and it was truthful to then. It has something to offer, and now it's
But
going to
it's the same
change.
with podcasting, right? It's like
Yes.
sometimes you'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I was thinking that.
Oh,
Or how
absolutely.
amazing that those feelings were what was really bothering me.
Yeah. And my views on it, just how I processed it or what I thought about it or what I shared about it. And then 6 months later, I'm like, wow, I'm a different person already. So it's like a disclaimer for all the podcasts I've ever made on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I'm really curious, Kremena, about your ancestry. And is it right you grew up in Bulgaria and then you moved to the Netherlands, or how is your story?
Yeah, so there was a little period of time where from 5 to 10, we lived in Syberia in Russia.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
from all places. So
Wow.
sometimes I like to consider myself as a sunny girl and really positive vibe. And growing up for 5 years in Siberia, it did put a mark on me, in a sense of, I was bullied when I was in school there, not in a very bad way, nothing super dramatic, but you kind of notice some patterns in you when you go through adulthood, that once being bullied, you have again the choice of, do you bully other people or do you help them heal? And I spent a lot of time in the beginning to be the bully in some occasions, not also extreme, but noticing that growing up, it does shape you and it does make
Mm-hmm.
you who you are, with all the positives and the negatives lessons that you need to learn. We moved back to Bulgaria when I was 10. And again, I had this feeling of not belonging and trying to reintegrate, not properly even speaking the language at the time. And stayed in Bulgaria till I was 22. And then before I moved to the Netherlands, there were few jobs abroad. And then I moved to the Netherlands. And I'm here now for more than a decade. And only now I can say openly that it does feel like home. First 5 years in the Netherlands was hard for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it came from a place that I felt like I wasn't welcome with every encounter I had here. The
Mm.
weather was not something that makes me thrive. And it did affect me deeply when I didn't know what's wrong with me, that I'm feeling so depressed, really, that the lack of sun can do that to you.
Mm,
So,
absolutely.
but it's weird because right now I know what to do, but the first few years here, I was going to every doctor you can think of, asking for, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, because you would just not feel right. And that's when I found yoga, really, that
Oh, wow.
brought me back to the sense of you're okay in your body, there is nothing wrong with you. And I would even joke about nothing better than an early winter depression in August here, because there is never sun, or at least to be the case, or I've seen it like that. And yeah, but now I really feel grounded, and it took only a decade, if you think about it.
I love that you said it. It took only a decade.
But time is also a very relative thing. It's also
Yeah.
the space, and I took my sweet time. I really did. And maybe now that I'm saying home is Amsterdam and I love it, and most of my friends that know me, they'll be like, but you've always wanted to live away. Like, what's going on? But yeah, opinions and perceptions change when you choose how to see the situation. And
Hmm.
now I happen to love Amsterdam, and I happen to find my tribe and really be at ease without seeking um, escape, and always moving and looking for, like, the place you live determines you. You choose how you want to see it. But it took a
Mm,
long, long
right.
time to recognize that.
Yeah, that's really lovely. And I'm hooking into the words you said. I took my sweet time.
It was quite a long process. I mean, from not having any friends, or because it's hard as adult to make friends, or at least it's not as easy. And when you come and you're not with your peers or with your family here, it can feel a
Yeah,
little bit tougher, and you
absolutely.
develop different skills. And only now I can say that I do have friends, and most of the good people I meet, yes, they're around the yoga and the field of self-care and the field of really development.
Hmm.
But I also have friends that come to my life from different areas, either business, or my sister moved in with me 5 years ago, and I got the chance to hang out with youngsters. And half of my friends here now are a decade younger than me, and the stories they talk about and the things that interest them are very different from what I would consider interests me. But it's fascinating to have people that you can call, and you could call them your crew, and you get to hang out for Easter. It's an Easter weekend, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad you found that and created that within you, and found yoga to create that home inside.
And that sweet time
Yeah.
was worth the wait.
Yeah. Well, when you said I took my sweet time, it's such a sweet way to describe how you experienced the length of time. And I hear sometimes in myself and in other people, like, it's taking too long. It's taking too
Oh,
long.
yeah.
But is that how you reframed it, or is that how you feel about it through it?
I used to be very much into the now, and everything needs to happen fast. But I really learned that if you would like to have something that is worth staying, or good things happen slowly. At least in my case, even with the yoga practice, you would know the 15th time you're doing a chaturanga is not the same as the 1500th time. And that patience that we cultivate on the mat, if translates outside, it's so rewarding, because some people might think within 2 years I need to achieve this, that. And I actually know it will come when it comes, when I'm ready. And the only way you know you're ready is when things come, and there is not the pressure of achieve, achieve, achieve. And I think this happens a lot within the Western society. I notice a lot of my friends from even United States or just here in Europe, there is this mentality of there is always a competition for something. And back home in Bulgaria really is not the case, or at least I haven't noticed that. Life is not really a competition, and we all have different paths. And we always say it like, if it takes me 5 years, it's just that's what it takes. If it takes me 10 years, it's also that's what it takes. And you only blossom or thrive when you're ready. And yeah, I've never been a big fan of forcing things to become faster, mainly because there is this knowledge of it will come when it has to come. It was the same reference with the book. If you know that you're not sabotaging it or stopping it for any other reason, it will be there eventually. So on the path of competition or trying harder, or I even call myself a more on the easygoing, more lazy style of even practicing. I don't believe in hurting your body for proving yourself. You can do a headstand, for instance. Eventually it will happen or not. But what is it that you learn throughout the process of going upside down? But yeah, it's fascinating how time is just so,
Beautiful.
It's a weird concept that we only get the chance to attach what it means. It's like now that everyone wants everything to be immediately done, or fast, fast, fast. I like taking time for certain things, to do them real slow, so that you really enjoy the process instead of going fast and what's the next big deal, what's the next big project.
Yeah, I'm really, really feeling that energy from you, and it's really lovely. Thank you.
In the past, it might have been that it wasn't coming across. But I believe really, this is only from the yoga practice. I don't see any other coalition, because you need to be practicing for quite some time till a posture comes together. Why it will be different in anything else you do. So it's so obvious sometimes that we forget,
Mm-hmm.
but practice makes perfect, in a sense of you've been there, you've done it, you can
Mm-hmm.
build on the top of it, and then it's the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I liked how you shared about that. It sounds like that some of this feeling into life this way is the way of Bulgarians, or something you learned growing up.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what, uh, what you feel growing up as Bulgarian and living in these different places too brings into your life. And what I find about myself is that when I'm traveling, I see myself more clearly in terms of my ancestry. When I'm in a different location, I can see my Chinese sides of me, or at least what I attach to being Chinese in some ways, and then the American side of me. So just wondered how your experience was with that.
Yeah. Most of the times when people just see me, they can't really place me. They would always play this game of, where are you from? They'll ask, and I'll be like, guess. And it's 30 minutes conversation going nowhere, because when they see me, they can't attach. Yeah, I love playing this game with Uber drivers, for instance, because it's, it's, according to me, my name is so obvious that I'm Bulgarian, that
Oh,
it should
yeah.
leave no doubt that it's Eastern Europe. But yeah, but no. And no, it's just a small game. Um, but seeing me, and people not being able to place me or attach my origin immediately, is something that gives you space to really be who you want to be. And the deeply rooted Bulgarian um, rituals that we all do, or like, for instance, the only reason people will know I'm Bulgarian is if they see my martenica, which is something we put as symbol for health and wealth, and it's red and white. In the beginning of March, we put it, and either you
Mm,
know a Bulgarian that wishes you well and gives you that, or you yourself are Bulgarian. So
mm,
when people meet me and see it, then they immediately make the connection. But without that, kind of, it strips away, and they can't place me. But my Bulgarian roots are, it's funny that we are talking about it, because some of my friends mentioned that I forgot to speak my own language. So they're making lots of jokes about the fact that I chose to communicate with them in English because I'm becoming lazier, and challenge accepted. I'm trying to to speak my own language. It's not nice. It's very confronting. When I speak about finding home here, this doesn't mean you forget your roots, but
yeah.
inevitably you feel like you're detaching from what you knew before and how you even spoke. And right now, I have consciously chosen to have Bulgarian books around me, and a lot of my friends are Bulgarians, and they would tease my accent and they will make those fun jokes. But deep down, I always go back home for practice, and we hold retreats in Bulgaria yearly, and the upcoming one is even called Root to Rise. And for us, the idea of, yeah, finding your ground and finding really what is it that nourishes your soul, is what will make you rise and what will make you really reach the heights you would like to achieve. So going back home is always a bit emotional, and it's always best retreats happen there because the herbs, the smells, the mountains we have, it's just really powerful tool for me as a teacher to reconnect so that I can give more of that deeper knowledge that maybe comes from the ancestors, maybe comes from the fact that it's a very ancient nation we have in Bulgaria with lots of rituals that are dating before the Christianity and before anything else that was there really. So going back home is always emotional in a sense that it's just very, very enlightening to be back home, to go back to where it all started, at least for this specific life, if you believe in incarnation. But yeah, traveling around, being proud of where you come from, and people not knowing much about my country also helps to give them the first impression of a whole nation, really. We sometimes hold a lot of responsibility with that because maybe bigger countries, people know what to expect or already have attached some judgments when they meet Bulgarians. Often we are not such a big country, we're only 8 million, and I feel always like I have the responsibility to explain a bit more. It's nice task to have, but it also comes with the disappointment of you've never heard where we are. It's again that pattern of playing small. I know my friends that come from countries that used to be empires, and it's a different mentality. We speak in a joking way, but it's always this idea of people coming from empire and people being submitted is a different mentality. And we had over 500 years of under Ottoman Empire, and that marked generations to come. And we do carry it with us in a way we speak. Some expressions are profoundly grounded with pain and suffering, and it's a bit of a enough with the victimhood. But then again, it's something that happened. We can't erase 500 years of a history we have. And usually the Balkans, the whole Balkan area is a space where more history is created that we can actually even comprehend what's going on. But it's always powerful to go back.
Wow.
It's always powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked me this question because often people say, so what can I expect when I come with you to Bulgaria? And I really need to tell them that the nature is amazing, people are welcoming, and there is this deep wisdom that comes from, I wouldn't like to call it only suffering, but when you have that history, you also create tools, and singing is one, or dancing. We have powerful ways to be together, and there is something that it's not in all countries I visit, or the countries I visited that have that are really much richer culturally than in comparison to the Netherlands, for instance.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up something so important and beautiful about the pain and suffering that a culture or person can experience, because it brings not only resilience, but all these different tools and ways of supporting each other and oneself that also build the wholeness of the experience. not just a flat experience of everything is kind of fine, but the whole spectrum of life with all of it. So it's really cool that you bring your retreats there.
Yeah.
And there's an evolution for you too, and a growth and a movement.
Yeah, and each time we go back, we are so different, and each time we explore different aspects of who we really are. This time we're going to the mountains and we're going to be hiking. There will be a beautiful meditation session at the Rila Lakes, and lately it's been known as a really good place for energy healing, and lots of foreigners are going there, and I haven't been yet. And this is the other, like, I've traveled the whole world, or I've been to some places, but yet there is one thing I haven't done yet in my own country, which is coming true now this summer. But again, taking your sweet time.
Yeah, take your sweet time to explore yourself and your own roots, which is what you're...
and going there when you feel ready for it.
Yeah.
It's, I think it will be
You're showing that in your life, in the way that you've led your life, and how you're sharing that with other people now in your retreat. So it's beautiful. When is your retreat coming up?
The retreat is taking place 21st of June till 24th. So it's a little bit longer weekend, and it's going to involve a lots of fun and picking of herbs and making our own sages. And I find that ritual being really important to me, because
beautiful.
Those herbs you can find only in the mountains that we're going for the hike. And the meditation itself is going to be held high up after we've done all the practice, and no retreat will be without our signature wine tasting. We always say that we created yoga food and wine with the sole purpose of making yoga and traveling and exploring accessible, in a sense that we're not judgmental. If you would like to drink a glass of wine, we will allow you to do so. If you would prefer to have a grapefruit juice instead, that's also fine. And that's the next one on my calendar for this year, and hoping for the next year to go back to Cape Town and host a retreat there that will be a little bit longer, with 7 days retreat, where we're gonna explore more the deeper healing work with pranayama meditation. There will be hike as well, because apparently we like hiking. Coming from the Netherlands, where there is not even one mountain, any chance we get, honestly, like,
you got to get on that mountain.
Yes. It's super funny because everyone is asking about the hiking part.
Oh, interesting.
And that's in January next year. And
great.
I'll be very pleased if any of the listeners would like to join us, and I'll leave you a discount code of 10% for any of the upcoming retreats.
Oh, wonderful. That's very exciting. How can people connect with you on that if they're interested and receive that?
So you can find me on Instagram, YorYoga. So how you hear it, YorYoga. Same with Facebook, and my email addresses are there. So I post regularly explaining where the next retreats are, and if anyone is in Amsterdam and would care to come and join a class of mine, you can just text me or find my schedule. I teach at the Studio 191 and at the Cosmos Studio, and anyone that is in Amsterdam and would like to have some yoga with me is more than welcome to join.
That sounds great. Next time I'm there,
please
I would love to come visit you. This has been lovely, Kremena. I really appreciate you and what you're sharing, and the deep richness of what you're sharing. And all of the links that you mentioned, we'll put that in the show notes. So anyone who's listening, just jump onto the website and find that information. And this full podcast is at candicewu.com/Kremena. And is there anything else you want to share before we close today?
I really would like to just thank you and show deep gratitude for everything you guys do. I don't take it lightly that I'm given the opportunity to share what I think today, how I feel today, and really thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to have you, and just enjoyed every bit that you shared today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was so wonderful to have Kremena on the show today. At the end of the conversation, actually throughout the conversation, I felt that feel of taking my time, because she was taking her time in sharing and just being at her own pace, and her pace being one that feels very present in each moment of her speaking. And I really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and can take something from this episode into your life, whether it relates to combining your passions into many parts of your life, taking the attitude that you've chosen what you're doing in your life, or going back to your own roots full circle and feeling into what's the wisdom of your ancestry, what wants to be continued through the line into your life and into others' lives. Thank you so much for joining us today, and be sure to check out her experiential that comes out later this week and is also connected with her episode at candicewu.com/Kremena, which is spelled Kremena. Well, when I'm in Amsterdam, I definitely want to check out her class, get a little restore and replenish, as well as new awarenesses. And I encourage you to do that too if you found anything interesting or inspiring for you. You can find all the information about her classes and workshops, as well as her retreat, at the show notes connected to this episode at candicewu.com/Kremena. Also, if you'd like to stay in touch with me and hear bi-monthly updates, as well as keep up to date on retreats, workshops, and podcast topics and guests, you can sign up for my newsletter at candicewu.com/embody. Well, that's all for today, and I encourage you to feel into what is your pacing of life that really gets you in your flow, and take your sweet time. See you next time on the Embody podcast.